I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who found out his wife was cheating. But here I am, about to share my story, and yeah, it feels a little surreal. Let me backtrack a bit and lay down the context of my life with Sarah, my wife of 5 years. We were the poster couple, or so I thought. Everyone envied our relationship. We had that chemistry, that fire. Or at least I thought we did. Sarah was the adventurous type, always craving something new and exciting. I remember her telling me once that she wanted to experience life to the fullest, to take risks. It was thrilling to hear her talk like that, but I also found it a bit concerning. After all, we had a stable life together, a routine that worked, at least I thought it did. There were signs here and there that things weren't quite right. The late nights, the sudden need for girl time, and her phone always glued to her hand. But I brushed it aside. She was just being social, right? One evening, I came home from work earlier than usual, excited to surprise her with dinner. The house was quiet, too. Quiet, and that's when I felt a knot in my stomach. I called out her name, but there was no response. As I walked toward our bedroom, I noticed her purse on the table. I reached for it, half expecting to find nothing but the usual makeup, a wallet, maybe a few receipts. But as I rummaged through it, I found something that made my heart drop. A crumpled piece of paper with a name and a phone number scribbled on it. My mind raced. Who was this guy? I thought about confronting her right then and there, but what if I was jumping to conclusions? I decided to play it cool, to gather more evidence. That night she came home late, her eyes a little too bright, her laughter a little too forced. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I tried to act normal. Days passed, and I became more paranoid. I started checking her phone when she left it lying around, but she always had it locked. The few times I tried to bring up her late nights, she brushed it off with a dismissive wave. "You know how it is, babe. Work can be demanding," she'd say, her voice dripping with annoyance. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Was I being jealous, or was there something more sinister going on? The tipping point came one fateful Saturday. I had been strategizing my next move, trying to find a way to dig deeper. That morning she said she was going to a spa day with her girlfriends. My gut said this was it. I decided to follow her. I know, it sounds creepy, but I felt like I had no other choice. I trailed her to a cozy little cafe across town, the kind of place where you'd expect to see friends catching up over lattes. I parked a few blocks away and waited, heart racing, as I watched her walk in. What I didn't expect was to see her laughing and flirting with a guy who looked like he just stepped out of a GQ magazine. My stomach dropped. I watched as they exchanged intimate glances, leaning in closer, their body language screaming more than just friendship. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The reality hit me like a freight train. Sarah wasn't just craving adventure. She was having an affair. All the signs I had ignored suddenly made sense. I wanted to scream, to confront her right then and there, but I needed solid proof. So I stayed hidden in my car, watching this unfold like a twisted movie. After what felt like an eternity, they left the cafe together, walking side by side, their laughter echoing in my ears. I felt like a fool. There was no denying it now. My wife was cheating on me. I had to confront her, but how? What could I say that would even begin to encapsulate the betrayal I felt? As I drove home, rage and confusion coursed through me. I thought about all the moments we shared, the plans we had made, and how I had trusted her with everything. How could she do this? I was done playing the fool. It was time for me to take action, and I was going to make sure she understood exactly what she was losing. I had no idea what I was going to do yet, but one thing was clear. I was not going to let this slide. The next steps would be crucial, and I knew I needed a plan. I was going to find a way to make her understand the gravity of her actions. I was going to give her the adventure she had been seeking, but alone. The next few days felt like a blur. I oscillated between anger, betrayal, and a deep-seated sadness that settled in my chest like a stone. I kept replaying that horrific scene in my mind, watching Sarah giggle at some joke from that guy, leaning in closer as if they were old friends. I hated feeling this way, but the truth was undeniable. The woman I loved was out there, choosing someone else over me, and I needed to do something about it. I started to formulate my plan. I didn't want to confront her without having everything in place. This was going to be methodical, and I wanted her to realize the full extent of her betrayal. I began keeping a log of her whereabouts, noting the times she left the house and when she returned, tracking her girl time and those late work nights. I became a shadow, quietly observing and documenting. Then came the moment I had been dreading but also anticipating. I needed to confront her. I couldn't let her think I was entirely in the dark. I wanted her to face the reality of her actions, and I wanted to see her reaction when she realized I knew. But I had to pick my moment wisely. One evening she came home particularly late, her cheeks flushed and hair tousled. That familiar knot twisted in my stomach as I watched her walk through the door, clutching her phone. "Hey, babe, I missed you," she chirped, a bit too cheerily for my liking. I forced a smile, masking the storm brewing inside me. After a quick dinner, I suggested we watch a movie together. As we settled on the couch, I could feel the tension between us. I turned to her, my heart racing. "Sarah, can we talk?" My voice was steady, but the anxiety gripped me like a vice. She looked at me, confusion flashing across her face, but she nodded. "Sure, what's up?" I took a deep breath. "I know about your little adventures." The color drained from her face. "What are you talking about?" She replied, her voice shaky. "Don't play dumb with me, Sarah, the late nights. The secretive texts and that guy at the cafe. I saw you, I know everything," I said, my tone unwavering. Her expression shifted from confusion to anger in an instant. "You're being ridiculous, you have no idea what you're talking about." She shot back, her voice rising. I could see the panic in her eyes, but I pressed on. "I do know what I'm talking about. You've been cheating on me. I watched you with him. You were laughing and flirting. How long has this been going on?" She opened her mouth to respond, but the words faltered. Instead of an apology or a confession, she chose to deflect. "You're overreacting. It was just a friendly get-together. You're being paranoid." "Paranoid? I saw it with my own eyes." I shouted, frustration boiling over. "What's it going to take for you to own up to this? I deserve to know the truth." She crossed her arms, a defensive posture, and her expression hardened. "I've been unhappy, okay? You don't listen to me anymore. I just wanted a little excitement in my life. That's not a crime." Excitement. So this was how she justified her betrayal. I felt a mix of disbelief and anger. "So you thought lying and cheating was the answer? You think this is just some sort of game? Stop twisting my words," she snapped. "I didn't mean for it to happen, but you've been so boring, I wanted to feel alive again." Her words stung, cutting deep into my heart. I had always aimed to provide a stable life, but I never realized it would push her away. "So you found it in the arms of another man?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she admitted, but there was no remorse in her eyes, just irritation and a hint of desperation. "I thought you wouldn't care if I had a little fun. You're always working, always distracted." The conversation spiraled into an argument, filled with accusations, half-truths, and hurtful remarks. I could feel my control slipping away. I wanted her to see the pain she was causing, to understand the gravity of her actions, but all she did was deflect and deny. I felt like I was hitting a wall, and it was infuriating. After what felt like hours, I finally cut through the noise. "I don't want to live like this anymore. You've made your choice, and it isn't me." Her face fell, a flicker of realization passing through her eyes. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I deserve better than this. If you want adventure, then go. But know that I won't be here when you come back," I said, my voice steady but filled with hurt. She opened her mouth to respond, but I wasn't interested in hearing any more excuses. I turned away, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. I had laid my heart bare, and now it felt crushed beneath the weight of betrayal. As I walked away, I could hear her voice call out, but I didn't look back. I wanted her to feel the consequences of her actions. She had chosen her path, and now it was time for me to choose mine. I was determined to show Sarah the adventure she was so desperate for, but it would be without me. I would make her realize what she was losing, and it was going to be a journey neither of us would forget. After that explosive confrontation, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I had finally confronted Sarah about her infidelity, and while it hadn't gone the way I had hoped, I was resolute in my decision to take control of my life. I didn't want to wallow in self-pity or anger. I wanted to turn the narrative around. It was time for me to craft my own adventure, one that didn't involve Sarah. The days following our argument were tense. Sarah and I lived in the same house but felt like strangers. She tried to act as if everything was normal, often attempting to initiate conversations, but I was having none of it. I focused on my work, spending long hours at the office and avoiding her like the plague. Each time I saw her, I was reminded of the betrayal, and I wanted to keep my distance until I figured out my next move. As the weekend approached, I decided to take a little trip. I hadn't taken a vacation in ages, and I figured it was the perfect opportunity to clear my head. I booked a cabin in the woods, a place where I could recharge and reflect on everything that had happened. This was my adventure, a chance to rediscover myself away from the chaos. The moment I arrived at the cabin, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. The air was crisp, the silence comforting. I spent the first day hiking, enjoying the beauty of nature and letting my thoughts drift. I found solace in the solitude, far from the betrayal and hurt that had consumed my life over the past few weeks. As night fell, I settled in for a quiet evening with a bottle of wine and a good book. I realized I hadn't taken the time to enjoy the simple pleasures in life, and it felt liberating. I reflected on my relationship with Sarah, how I had lost sight of myself in the process of trying to make her happy. She had wanted adventure, and instead of encouraging her to find it independently, I had tried to be everything she needed. But the truth was, I was losing myself in the process. I didn't want to feel like a victim anymore. I wanted to reclaim my life. That's when I decided to take my plan a step further. I would show Sarah just how serious I was about moving on. The idea of revenge didn't sit well with me. It felt petty, but I wanted her to understand the consequences of her actions. In the coming days, I started brainstorming. I didn't want to hurt her. Rather, I wanted her to feel the absence of my presence, to realize what she had taken for granted. I remembered all those times when she'd complain about wanting someone who understood her adventurous side. I thought about posting on social media about my trip, sharing photos of my adventures and new experiences. I knew Sarah would see them, and I wanted her to know that I was thriving without her. I would showcase my new life, full of excitement and spontaneity. Maybe that would make her understand that I wasn't just sitting at home, waiting for her to return. I crafted posts that highlighted my hikes, my evenings by the fire, and the peace I felt in solitude. I even threw in a few vague captions about new beginnings and self-discovery. I felt a rush of satisfaction as I hit post, imagining Sarah scrolling through her feed and seeing my life unfold without her. I could picture the realization dawning on her. She had chosen to betray someone who was willing to support her adventurous spirit, and now she was missing out on the life we could have had. As expected, the comments started pouring in. Friends and family liked my posts and commented on how great it was to see me enjoying life. I felt a sense of empowerment with each notification. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my identity, my happiness. Meanwhile, Sarah attempted to reach out. She texted me multiple times, mostly asking how I was doing. "I miss you," she wrote. I could feel her desperation through the screen, but I didn't respond. I needed her to feel the weight of her actions without my interference. She wanted adventure. Well, she should feel the consequences of her choices. Eventually, Sarah tried to coax me into a face-to-face meeting. She pleaded for a chance to talk, to explain herself. I was torn. Part of me wanted to hear her out, to see if there was any remorse or understanding in her eyes. But the other part of me wanted to keep the walls up. This was my time, and I wasn't quite ready to let her back in. After much deliberation, I agreed to meet her for coffee at a cafe halfway between our places. I wanted to see if she was truly sorry or if she would try to manipulate me into forgiving her. I arrived a few minutes early, taking a deep breath as I sat down, my heart racing at the thought of facing her again. When she walked in, the first thing I noticed was her outfit, a little too casual for a serious conversation. She looked disheveled, as if she hadn't put much thought into her appearance. Yet there was an edge of nervous energy about her that suggested she was trying hard to play it cool. "Hey," she said, forcing a smile as she slid into the seat across from me. "Hey," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. For a moment there was silence between us, thick with tension. I could sense her anxiety as she fidgeted with her hands. "I wanted to talk about everything," she began, but I cut her off. I don't want to hear excuses, Sarah. You made your choice and now you have to live with it. Her face fell and I could see that my words stung. I know I messed up, I felt so disconnected from you. It was never supposed to go this far, she admitted, her voice trembling. Yet it did, didn't it? You don't get to rewrite history just because you've changed your mind now. I leaned back, crossing my arms. What do you want from me? I want us to work through this, she said, desperation creeping into her voice. I miss you, I miss us. I realized now that I was being stupid and reckless. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me, but I took a deep breath to calm myself. You had your chance, Sarah. I'm not sure I can forgive you. You threw away everything we built together for some fleeting thrill. In that moment, I knew I had to stick to my decision. I was done trying to salvage a relationship that had already been tainted by betrayal. I wanted her to realize what she had lost, and I was determined to move forward with my life. The conversation continued, filled with tears and apologies, but in my heart, I knew there was no going back. I had to focus on my journey now, on building the life I truly wanted, one that didn't involve her. As I left the cafe, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. I was ready to embrace the adventure that lay ahead, no longer bound by the past. The aftermath of that meeting with Sarah left me in a strange emotional place. I felt relieved but also heavy with the weight of the past. I had faced her, and despite the tears and pleas, I stood firm in my decision to move on. I needed to embrace this new chapter in my life, one where I wasn't defined by her actions or our shared history. Over the next couple of weeks, I continued to immerse myself in my newfound independence. I threw myself into activities I had always wanted to try, but never had the chance to pursue when Sarah was around. I signed up for rock climbing classes, went to a cooking workshop, and even took a weekend trip to a nearby city I'd always wanted to explore. I was feeling alive again, and the thrill of adventure was mine to claim. Social media had become a bit of a double-edged sword. While I enjoyed sharing my experiences, I also noticed how much Sarah seemed to be watching. I'd catch glimpses of her liking my posts and commenting on my adventures. "Looks like you're having a great time," she'd write, accompanied by emojis that felt disingenuous. I knew she was trying to play it cool, but deep down, I sensed that she was struggling with the reality of losing me. One night I received a text from her that changed everything. "Can we talk again? In person? I really want to explain everything." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore her, but another part was curious about what she truly had to say. After a brief internal battle, I decided to meet her for dinner, a neutral ground where we could talk without the clouds of our past hanging over us. When I arrived at the restaurant, I felt the tension in the air as soon as I spotted her sitting at a booth. She looked nervous, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the table. I took a deep breath and slid into the seat across from her. "Hey," I said, keeping my tone neutral, a mask of calmness in the storm of emotions swirling within me. "Thanks for coming," she replied, her voice small. "I know things have been really rough between us and I've had some time to think." I nodded, waiting for her to continue. I wasn't interested in small talk or niceties. I wanted honesty, raw and unfiltered. "I've been seeing a therapist," she admitted, her gaze falling to the table. I didn't realize how unhappy I was and how that pushed me to make the choices I did. I thought I could find excitement elsewhere, but I only ended up losing what mattered. I felt a mix of emotions swelling within me. On one hand, I appreciated her willingness to seek help, but on the other, the hurt still lingered. "And what do you want from me now?" I asked, my tone sharper than intended. "Just a chance to explain, to really make you understand," she said earnestly. I was struggling with my identity, and I felt like I was losing myself. I thought the affair would help me find that excitement I was missing, but it didn't work like I thought it would. I just made things worse. I let her words hang in the air for a moment. "You think I could just forget everything? You broke my trust. You hurt me," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I don't know if I want to hear any more excuses." "I'm not trying to make excuses," she insisted. "I just want to take responsibility for what I did. I didn't realize how much I meant to you, how much we had built together. I thought adventure meant leaving the comfort of home, but it turns out the real adventure was right in front of me the whole time. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake the memories of betrayal and dishonesty. "You had your adventure, and it hurt me deeply," I said, the pain still fresh in my mind. "What makes you think I'd want to go back to that?" "Because I've changed," she replied, her eyes pleading for understanding. "I've learned so much about myself. I miss you and I miss us. I want to work on things to rebuild what we had. I promise I won't take it for granted again." I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but the scars from her actions still ran deep. "In theory, that sounds great, but the reality is different. Trust is hard to rebuild once it's broken. I don't want to live in a constant state of doubt, wondering if you're being honest or if you're just going to hurt me again." "I understand, and I don't expect you to just forgive me right away," she said softly. "But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. Just give me a chance to prove that I can be better." Her words resonated with me, but I was still cautious. I had been genuinely happy before she broke our relationship apart. Was it worth the risk to open myself up again? Could we rebuild something that felt so irreparably shattered? "Let's say I'm willing to consider it," I said after a moment of silence. "What would that look like? What would you do differently?" "I would communicate more openly," she replied, her voice gaining confidence. "I'd involve you in my life and make you feel valued again. No more secrets, no more checking out of the relationship. I realize now how important it is to be present, and I want to show you that I can be." I leaned back, contemplating her words. Could I trust her again? Was I ready to dive back into a relationship that had left me feeling so broken? I didn't have all the answers, but a small part of me was willing to explore the possibility. "Okay," I said finally, surprising even myself. "Let's take it slow. I'm not promising anything, but I'm open to seeing where this can go. But you need to understand the stakes. If you hurt me again, there will be no coming back from it." "Thank you," she said, relief washing over her face. "I promise to do everything I can to make this right." As we finished dinner, I felt a mix of hope and trepidation. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for us to rebuild. I was ready to embrace the uncertainty, not just of our relationship, but of my own adventure in healing and rediscovery. When I got home that night, I sat alone in the living room, contemplating everything that had transpired. The road ahead would be rocky, but I knew I had to keep moving forward. I had taken the first step towards healing, and while I was still figuring things out, I felt a sense of empowerment. I was no longer bound by the past. I was ready to take control of my future, whatever that might look like. Embracing the uncertainty of my relationship with Sarah brought a mix of hope and dread. As we agreed to take things slow, I found myself navigating uncharted waters, balancing my growing curiosity about her intentions with the lingering scars of betrayal. I had opened the door slightly, but I was still cautious, keeping my guard up while allowing her some space to prove herself. In the days that followed, I noticed subtle changes in Sarah. She was more attentive, genuinely engaging in conversations and making an effort to include me in her life. She started inviting me to join her on weekend outings, whether it was visiting friends or attending events. At first, I was hesitant. I didn't want to become too attached or let my guard down completely. But as time passed, I found myself easing into the rhythm of our new dynamic, cautiously optimistic. One Saturday afternoon, Sarah suggested we try a couple's cooking class together. I was taken aback by the idea but eventually agreed, thinking it could be a fun way to reconnect. As we arrived at the venue, I felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. The kitchen was buzzing with energy, filled with the aromas of fresh herbs and spices, and I could sense an atmosphere of warmth and camaraderie. We were paired with another couple, and as we chopped vegetables and stirred sauces, I couldn't help but notice how effortlessly Sarah engaged with me. There was a spark I hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of teamwork that felt refreshing. We laughed as we fumbled through the recipes, and I found myself reminiscing about the joy we once shared. As the class wrapped up, we sat down to enjoy the meal we had prepared. It was a simple dish, but sharing it with Sarah felt like a step towards rebuilding our connection. "This is really fun," she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I'm glad we decided to do this together. Yeah, me too, I replied, a genuine smile breaking through my guarded demeanor. Maybe there was hope after all. But as much as I wanted to enjoy the moment, the memories of her infidelity lingered at the back of my mind, reminding me to stay cautious. I had to remind myself that trust was a fragile thing, easily broken but difficult to mend. In the weeks that followed, we continued to explore activities together, gradually rebuilding our friendship. We took hikes, attended concerts, and even visited a local art gallery. Each outing felt like a small victory, a chance to rediscover each other. However, I still felt a constant tension beneath the surface, an unspoken reminder of our past. One evening, as we sat together on the couch watching a movie, Sarah turned to me, her expression serious. "Can we talk about us?" she asked, her voice steady but filled with vulnerability. I nodded, my heart racing. "Sure. What's on your mind?" "I know we've been working on things, but I want to make sure we're both on the same page," she said, her eyes locking onto mine. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize that I don't want to just go back to how things were before. I want to build something new, something better." Her words hit me like a wave, and a part of me felt hopeful. "What does that look like for you?" I asked, genuinely curious. "I want us to take risks together," she replied, her voice gaining confidence. "I want to be adventurous, but in a way that includes both of us." I was so focused on my own desires that I forgot how important it is to share those moments with you. I listened intently, weighing her words. "So, you want to travel, explore new hobbies together?" I asked, trying to grasp what she meant by adventurous. "Exactly. I want us to experience life together, not just as individuals seeking thrills separately," she said, her passion shining through. "I've missed so much of what we had, and I want to make up for it. I want to create memories with you, not just chase excitement on my own." In that moment, I saw a glimpse of the Sarah I had fallen in love with, the adventurous spirit that had drawn me to her in the first place. But I still grappled with the fear of falling back into old patterns. "And how do I know this isn't just another whim?" I asked, my voice tinged with skepticism. "Because I'm committed to making this work," she said earnestly. "I don't want to lose you again. I've learned from my mistakes, and I want us to grow together this time." I took a deep breath, contemplating her sincerity. Trust was still a fragile thing, but I wanted to believe her. If we were going to rebuild our relationship, we needed to be honest and open, and that included addressing the fears that still lingered between us. "Okay," I said slowly. "Let's make a plan. Let's find things we want to do together, things that excite us both. But I need you to promise that if issues come up, we talk about them instead of running away." "I promise," she said, her eyes filled with determination. "I want us to have the kind of relationship where we're both open and honest. I want us to build something that lasts, not just a temporary fix." As we spoke, I felt a shift inside me, a glimmer of hope that maybe we could find our way back to each other, but this time it would be different. It wouldn't be about adventurous escapades that pushed us apart. Instead, it would center around shared experiences that brought us closer. The following weeks were a whirlwind of planning and excitement. We began making a list of places we wanted to visit, activities we wanted to try, and new experiences we hadn't shared before. It felt exhilarating to think about the possibilities ahead, and I found myself looking forward to our adventures together, this time with a renewed sense of purpose. As we navigated this new chapter, I realized that rebuilding trust wasn't going to happen overnight. There would be ups and downs, moments of vulnerability, and times when old wounds would surface. But I also understood that we had a chance to rewrite our story, to create an adventure that was uniquely ours. In the process, I rediscovered not only my love for Sarah, but also my love for life itself. I was no longer just a bystander. In my own journey, I was actively participating, embracing the uncertainty and excitement that lay ahead. As we prepared for our first official adventure together, a weekend camping trip, I felt a mix of anticipation and nerves. Would this be the start of something beautiful, or would the shadows of our past dampen the experience? Only time would tell, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. As we packed our bags, I couldn't shake the sense of excitement that bubbled within me. Perhaps this was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with genuine adventure, growth, and the promise of a stronger bond. Whatever lay ahead, I was ready to face it, side by side with Sarah, as we embraced the adventure of rebuilding our lives together. The morning of our camping trip arrived, and I felt a restless excitement coursing through me. We loaded up the car with supplies, tents, sleeping bags, cooking gear, and enough food to last us the weekend. The air was cool and crisp, invigorating as I looked at Sarah, who was buzzing with anticipation. As much as I was looking forward to this adventure, I couldn't shake the anxiety that came with it. This trip felt like a test, a chance to see if we could truly navigate our new dynamic. The drive to the campsite was filled with laughter and light-hearted banter, a stark contrast to the heavy conversations we'd had in the past weeks. We sang along to our favorite songs, and I found myself relaxing, the weight of our previous struggles slowly lifting. When we finally arrived, the beauty of the mountains and the serenity of the forest enveloped us. Setting up the tent was a challenge. We fumbled and laughed as we figured out the ropes and stakes. It felt good to be working alongside each other again, to feel the camaraderie that had been missing for so long. After we finally got the tent up, we hiked to a nearby lake, the sun shining brightly above us, shimmering across the water's surface. As we stood by the lake, I marveled at how peaceful everything felt. "This is incredible," I said, taking a deep breath of the fresh air. Sarah smiled, her eyes sparkling with joy. "I'm so glad we did this. I feel alive again," she responded, her enthusiasm infectious. As the sun began to set, we set up a campfire, the flames flickering gently as we prepared dinner together. Cooking over an open flame felt primitive yet liberating, and we chatted about everything and nothing. It was in these moments that I felt the walls between us start to dissolve. After dinner, we sat by the fire, roasting marshmallows and reminiscing about our first camping trips together when everything felt new and exciting. As we laughed and shared stories, I could see a flicker of the connection we once had. It was a reminder of why I had fallen in love with her in the first place, the carefree spirit, the joy in simple moments. "Can I be honest?" she asked suddenly, her tone shifting to something more serious. I nodded, bracing myself for whatever she was about to say. "I was scared coming on this trip. I thought the past might cloud our experience, that it would be awkward," she confessed, looking into the fire. "But being here with you, I feel like we're starting to build something real again." I took a moment to respond, feeling the weight of her words. "I was scared too. I did know if we could get back to a place where we could enjoy being together again," I admitted. "But it feels different now, like we're both genuinely invested in making this work." She reached for my hand, her touch sending warmth through me. "I want to keep building on this," she said, her voice steady. "I don't want to take any of it for granted again. I've learned that adventure isn't just about the thrills, it's about who you share those moments with." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, the crackling of the fire filling the space between us. I reflected on how far we had come. A few months back, I never imagined we would be here, sharing laughter and rekindling the flame that had flickered out so easily. As the evening deepened, we decided to turn in early. Crawling into our tent, I felt a comforting sense of security. We lay side by side, our sleeping bags enveloping us, and I could hear her soft breathing. It felt strange and wonderful at the same time. "Good night, Sarah," I whispered, and she smiled in the dim light. "Good night, love." The next morning, we woke to the sound of birds chirping and the sun peeking through the tent. I felt a renewed sense of hope as we prepared for the day ahead. We hiked to a nearby peak, the view at the top breathtaking, our shared laughter echoing in the air as we took in the beauty around us. Each moment felt like a step toward healing, reminding me that while the past was still a part of us, it didn't have to define our future. The more we talked, the more I realized how much we had both grown. Conversations about the future, our goals and dreams flowed naturally, a stark contrast to the heaviness of our previous discussions. That night, as we sat by the fire once more, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. "You know, I think we're making progress," I said, gazing into the flames. She nodded, her smile radiant. "I believe that too. This is just the beginning, isn't it?" "Just the beginning," I echoed, feeling a swell of optimism. The camping trip ended on a high note, with both of us feeling more connected than ever. We packed up our gear, ready to head home, but I knew this adventure would mark a turning point in our relationship. It was a reminder that love could endure, even after betrayal, as long as both parties were willing to put in the work. In the weeks that followed, we continued to explore new experiences together, building on the foundation we had started to lay. It wasn't always easy, and there were moments when old habits crept in, but we faced them together, openly discussing our feelings and fears. Looking back, I felt grateful for that moment of clarity when I had decided to confront Sarah. It had led us to this new beginning, an adventure I never expected but one that felt right. I learned that relationships require constant effort, communication, and most importantly, the willingness to forgive and grow. As I reflected on our journey, I realized that sometimes life's greatest adventures don't come from the thrill of new experiences, but from the bravery to rebuild what was once lost. Together, Sarah and I were not just healing. We were creating a new story, one filled with love, trust, and the promise of many adventures to come.